it is time for Fun Friday. Whoops, I was trying to turn my air off and then I turned my radio on. That's not going to work. So I apologize if my camera is like weird angled. I don't know what's going on with it today. I just can't get it to be straight. I don't know. But I'm going to do this anyway because I'm just a rebel like that. I am going to take my sweatshirt off though because, you know, it is summertime here in the Midwest and it's actually hot today. I am going to also open my other window just so I can get some air flowing in this car. Alright, so today for Fun Friday, which I haven't done a Friday Funday in, you know, a while. I'm going to do a video. I actually tried to do one last week or a week before, I can't remember, and I'm going to save that one for another time. But I think what I'm going to do is how I did my makeup in high school. Alright? So let's get ready, y'all. I'm a 90s girl. I was in high school in the 90s. And I turned 20, I think, in 98? Yeah, end of 98 I turned 20. So my whole teenage years and high school was in the 90s. So I'm a 90s girl for sure. So, but for makeup, what that means is there was a lot of brown lips. I don't have, but there are a couple of different things that happened in the 90s for me. So I'm going to do the ones that I have the actual products to recreate. So this isn't necessarily something that I would do like all the time, but it is, I have done this kind of makeup when I was in high school. So I'm going to go ahead and use the Hard Candy Look Pro Bare It All Foundation Stick and Concealer. My life was all about full coverage. So I'm going to put a full coverage on, y'all. And it didn't have to be natural looking full coverage, it just had to be full coverage. So that's what we're going to do right now. My husband is going to laugh at me. So I didn't always have a stick foundation for that or anything like that, but I did use a lot of cream to powder, and a stick foundation is kind of like that. So, and this one is actually pretty good. So we'll see. And I did use sponges more often than not. I use my fingers. Well, no, that's not really true now that I think about it. I use sponges, but they didn't have a sponge like this. There was never like a round sponge like this that I had ever seen. And I didn't know like anything about makeup. All I knew was what I would see when I would go shopping with my mom in the makeup section. And we always did like, I mean, way back in the day, Wet n Wild was like, obviously it still is, but it was like the cheapest brand at the drugstore. It wasn't that great if I remember, but because it was so inexpensive, that was pretty much that, and CoverGirl were really the only brands that my mom would let me get. And as I got older, she let me, well, I guess it was after high school though, she let me get some Mary Kay products because she started selling them herself. Alright, so is that full coverage? Pretty close. I did not have all this pigmentation though when I was in high school at all. I always had like dark-ish under eyes, but they were never like with all this pigmentation that you see here. So, and again, it did not matter like, and I was a total greaseball in high school. Did not matter like how the makeup looked as long as it was full coverage. And I would not be caught dead at high school without any makeup on. Oh, anyway, what I was saying about the sponges, my train of thought constantly derailed. There was always a wedge sponge, so I'm using the flat side because of that. There was always like, CoverGirl actually had like really good sponges, and like a lot of the wedge sponges that you see in like grocery stores today were not made of the same material. They were made of a better material back when I was a teenager and in high school. Alright, so there we go. And it didn't matter, like I always used like a ton of concealer. And it was like, I always used the lightest, like the lightest of the light because number one, I'm fair. But also like, I just thought like the lighter you put the concealer under your eyes, the better it's going to conceal. You know, I thought the lighter the better as far as concealer. It didn't occur to me that maybe it was making my blue and dark under eyes like look worse because it was just making them look gray. You know what I mean? And there was like, I would put a ton. This is like probably not even as much as I would put on, but I'm trying to put on a lot, trying to replicate this. So we're gonna see how this looks in the end. My husband, when he gets home, is gonna be like, what in the world is wrong with you, woman? So and I always have put my concealer and foundation over my eyelids because I've always had like discoloration there. Once it started when I was a teenager, and then it's gotten steadily, progressively more and more as I have aged and had children and stuff. I actually like this concealer. It's the CNC concealer by RK by Kiss. I actually really like it. Okay, so when I was in high school, the big thing, like blush was not a big thing, but man, for me, full coverage. So I would a lot of times use a really high coverage foundation, and then I would also put a powder foundation on top of that. So I'm going to do that today, and I'll put all the products in the description below in case you're wondering, just because to kind of speed things along since I don't edit. So this is a powder foundation. It's a mineral one, and I would never have used a brush for anything except for eyeshadow. Like, to me, it almost seemed like wrong to use a brush for foundation. Like, it was always sponge or fingers, and that's it. And for powder, I would use those little powder pads that come in like a pressed powder compact. I use those all the time for powder. Okay, so there's me all powdered up and being really full coverage, although this isn't even like full coverage. You can still see everything coming through. So, all right, let me put a little bit right here. Okay. I wasn't a big blush girl. I knew I was missing something. But if I did have a blush, it was always like a brownie kind of blush like this. Sometimes I didn't even use blush, and I didn't care too much how it was blended or anything, so I'm just gonna put it on like I would have. I want to say probably the blush that I used was more brown than this. Alright, and I didn't use a lot of eyeshadow. I don't remember using eyeshadow really hardly at all, but I always had an eyeliner on my upper lash line, so I'm going to show you how I did that. And all I would do was have a dark brown eyeliner. I never used black, but dark brown eyeliner, and it would be a line, just a line, like a straight line. From inner corner to outer corner. Just like that. And not blended or smudged or anything, just like that. Exactly like that. And then I would use, this is almost exactly like a kind of mascara that I would use, although like a lot of the times it was just whatever was the least expensive, because my mom was not going to be purchasing no $7 mascara for me. So, alright. And sometimes I would like pull my lashes this way. To give like a winged effect. Go ahead and do that. Oh yeah, that's exactly how I would do it. Okay. And I used to watch a lot of old, like, 40s and 50s movies. So I always saw them with that, you know, winged effect, and I thought it was just pulling your mascara. Oh my goodness, it's really bad. Pulling your mascara that way. Oh wow. Okay, so moving right along. I never did brows. But of course, since it was 90s, I always had a lip liner. It was like Wet n Wild brandy wine or something like that. So this is the closest that I have to that, which is just a neutral lip liner. It was never blended. It was just lined. And when I was in high school, the cool thing was line and then use a clear gloss on the inside. I don't have a fully clear gloss today. And it was blended a little bit, but not a lot. So there we go. Makeup from high school. So here's a little bit of a close-up. Now, my foundation actually looks better than it ever did in high school. And my skin was so oily, like by the middle of the day, this whole part was rubbed off. It was red and splotchy. Again, I never did my brows. I didn't even pluck my brows until, man, until I was probably in my early 20s. No,